Hello, it's I, Fat Cow. Today's topic's a little difficult to talk about. Food is just unalive, noticeably upset, talking about what had happened on LolCow live the previous day, and a development, let's say, in her feelings about what happened to her. Now, up until this morning, the feelings had been righteous indignation, a kind of so what, sit on it and spin kind of attitude. And something happened last night when she'd gone on a drive about. Salah had gone down to meet her outside the building under the pretense of agreeing to park the car on her behalf, but then made it stop filming immediately, which is unusual. Does what happened last night with Salah and the general mood this morning have any connection? Quite possibly. So Foodie claims that she watched another YouTuber who had previously been a guest or a panel member on LolCow Live and had subsequently been either rejected or had chosen no longer to participate, and had made their feelings as a female on the panel very clear. Foodie says it was only when listening to this other person talking about this did she realise that the events that had occurred on LolCow Live were actually something to be upset about. Is it that hearing somebody else voice an opinion that not many people had said made Foodie realise the extent of her treatment on LolCow Live? Or was it upon hearing somebody give an alternative point of view, one that put Foodie in a more preferable light, made Foodie think, this is a bandwagon I can jump upon? Now, I'm not going to actively suggest that Foodie's current response has no validity. What I'm going to suggest or imply, and this is my opinion based on observation and experience, is that Foodie is more inclined to be leaning towards the second scenario, which is she saw someone come with an opinion that portrayed herself in a better light given the circumstances. I also think that Foodie has become extremely aware since last night how much trouble she's actually gotten herself into. You see, what Foodie was saying made sense and could, in some circumstances, have elicited some degree of sympathy from me. That was until she repeatedly insulted the physical attributes of the other presenters. When you are feeling the way she suggests you're feeling, you don't back up your argument with personal insults and trying to sully the physical attributes of other people involved. She didn't need to go on at Tracy so much. She didn't need to talk about Boogie's manhood. She didn't have to question why married men would ask to see this picture. It would just be men. The married is incidental. She didn't need to state that what happened was especially bad because she's a hijabi. It would be bad for any woman, even a porn star, to be asked that question. Having a hijabi doesn't make it more scandalous. Keemstar, or whatever his name is, asked if he could see the picture. Now Foodie is twisting this as him being smart and covering his arse. But she could have said no. She now says she was put on the spot and didn't know how to answer. She was very willingly engaging in this conversation. She wasn't peer pressured per se, but she might have felt like if she said no, she wasn't one of the cool kids and would be less likely to be hired for the gig of being in LolCow Queens. I would like to suggest, again, my own opinion, had the response to her pictures been favourable, she wouldn't currently feel so violated. I believe, given Foodie's need for male attention and approval, it was the fact that everybody was making fun of her picture that is making her feel somewhat unhappy about what happened, and also the fact that when Salah truly understands the magnitude of what she did and agreed to and said and went along with publicly, that she knows she is in a shit load of trouble. Now, I'm not saying that some of the things that she said doesn't carry any credibility. She is very aware of the fact that historically she allows people, well, men, to have access to her body, as she says. Now, speaking on behalf of myself and as someone who has low self-esteem, yeah, it's easy to pretend you're confident when you're sat at home alone behind a computer screen. If you saw me out in the wide world, different story entirely. Zero eye contact. I never initiate a conversation unless I feel obligated to be polite to a cashier or somebody in customer service. But that's by the by. When I first became single after my marriage, I had been in a relationship for almost 15 years, and prior to that I was in another relationship for 5. So I had spent the majority of my 20s and all of my 30s and part of my 40s not in the dating scene. And when I had been in the dating scene, there was none of this online business, because I'm that old. When I first went on online dating, I very naively thought that everybody else who was on the app wanted what I wanted, which was to legitimately meet someone to have a relationship with. I was very unaware of the culture. I was very unaware of pretty much everything to do with it. And so I very quickly realized, maybe duplicitously, very quickly realized that the exchange of intimate pictures was very normal, or I was led to believe it was normal, or I very naively believed it was normal. So I will hold my hands up and admit I have sent my fair share of pictures. When somebody responds positively to that kind of picture, it makes you feel good. If somebody suddenly disappears or says something negative on receiving your picture, it makes you feel crap. And it makes you feel like you feel dirty, and not in a good way. So I can understand how having intimate pictures responded to negatively can make you feel. I can also understand the need to make yourself physically available to anybody that you go on a date with feels like. I also was under the impression, naively, that having sex on the first date was normal. And funnily enough, none of the men I went to meet corrected me. It even got to the point that I made myself physically available, even if I didn't like the guys and had no intention of seeing them again, because there is a part of me that felt, had I refused, they would get angry with me. But that is a consequence of other things that I have gone through. So feeling the need to make your body available to anybody is something I understand. However, not when I was in a relationship with somebody, and definitely not during the period of time I was a revert. I have made many mistakes when it comes to being intimate with almost complete strangers. It's not something I'm necessarily ashamed of, though, because I understand why I felt this was normal, and I have learnt from it. What Foodie hasn't learnt is not to make herself available. And I think in a great part this has to do with the fact that she is currently not desired and currently not physically appreciated, because she's currently not actually in an intimate, physical, romantic relationship with somebody, and she needs the ego boost, which she got, quite frankly, the complete opposite of when she went on LolCow Live. I'm not saying she doesn't feel shitty. I'm saying she's feeling shitty for reasons she would be at pains to admit. Her ego has been bruised. Her ego is fragile, despite all her protests. If anybody legitimately makes you feel unclean after an interaction with them, you have every right to feel that way. But I don't believe that's how Fildy is feeling. And I do believe that she is basically trying to rewrite the narrative in order to minimalise the amount of trouble she has gotten herself into, and also to save face.